music.
Welcome, 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 welcome. Thank you for taking the time, whether it be your first time, your last time. Thank you for taking this time to be here with me. I'm your host, AP. This is Timeouts and Tangents, and we're coming live this morning just because I wanted to talk some trash. Just being honest about it. What up, Paul? Thanks for being in the chat, baby. All glory to God. Yes, you say, as you say, man, it is a great day to give God His praise. But I'm coming here to talk some stuff, and I'm pretty sure most of y'all have seen the thumbnail, the title. Trinidad Chambliss choosing Ole Miss was his first NFL mistake, and trust me, they're not gonna forget it. My guy is giving off beta male energy. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think Trinidad Chambliss is one of the best quarterbacks in college football. Right now, I think if you look at this 2026 draft class, it's hard to argue that he is not the second best quarterback in this class. How can you say he's not? Think about this for a moment. You have Fernando Mendoza as the best quarterback. Honestly, I think that Trinidad Chambliss is better than Fernando. I get the year that Fernando had, but I think he's better than Fernando in this draft class. I do. Then you have Ty Simpson. Then you have him himself ranked as 3. Drew Aller at Penn State. Garrett Nussmeier from our own Louisiana State University. Carson Beck from Miami. Cole Payton from North Dakota State. This draft class this year is trash. It's trash. And Trinidad had an opportunity to solidify himself in being a first-round pick. I mean, you got teams like the Jets picking at 16. You think they wouldn't have taken a flyer on Trinidad at 16? Traded back to pick him up in the later rounds? Pittsburgh at 21. They don't know what their quarterback situation is going to be. You don't think he could have made a difference for Pittsburgh? But no, he wanted to fight to come back to college to get a bigger payday. I understand that. But your future for 1 year, you're mortgaging your future for 1 year. That is a stupid decision. Because long term, the effects of that can be felt. Yes, you cash in on the short-term gain, and I understand why you would want to do that. But what about after this year? Let's say, hypothetically speaking, what happened to Garrett Nussmeier happens to Trinidad Chambliss. And then what? And next year's quarterback draft class is loaded. This was a stupid and irresponsible decision if you're thinking about the future. Because the NFL is not going to forget it. And when they go through those interviews, they're going to question his dog mentality. If you're such a dog, if you're such a beast, if you're this, that, and the third, why you didn't come fight last year to come be the number 1 quarterback taken off the board? Because you had a better shot. Because next year's draft class has the potential to have Julian Sayin, Dante Moore, Arch Manning, Jaden Mayava, Lenore Sellers, Dylan Raiola, Sam Levitt, John Mateer, Brendan Sorsby, DJ Lagway, Nico Maliava, and Darian Mensah. And then you add Trinidad Chambliss. And I can tell you right now, if you put Lenore Sellers and Trinidad Chambliss in the same draft class, NFL scouts are going to evaluate Lenore Sellers higher. No, you're right. You're right, Blake. You're right. His his draft evals weren't that high right now, but the latest mocks, the latest grades that was posted literally on February 11th have him ranked third behind Ty Simpson. You think a good pro day in combine wouldn't have elevated him to two? The NFL is always thirsty for quarterbacks. And him coming off of the year that he had would have pushed him up. But Lenore Sellers right now would get drafted by the NFL in front of Trinidad Chambliss in next year's draft class. And it's simply because of his size and the things that they can't teach, because they lust over 6'3", 240-pound freak athletes that just cannot be grown everywhere. This was the best year for him to make the most amount of an impact on an NFL team. And I personally am sad to see it, because I want to see this kid succeed on the next level. But because he's going to be going into another draft class next year with, legitimate difference makers at the same position, he is going to get buried. They are going to push him aside. He will become the modern day Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor at Ohio State was absolutely elite for his time that he was there. Won a Heisman. Got to the NFL and never got a fair shake to be a consistent starter. Always had to fight for playing time and eventually accepted his role as being a journeyman backup quarterback. That is what Trinidad Chambliss is fighting against right now. He will come through and have a fantastic season next year. By all accounts, he probably should be a top 5 Heisman frontrunner. Wouldn't say he should be the leading candidate. The leading candidate he plays with, Keywan Lacey. That's me personally, but they don't give the award to running backs anymore, so it is what it is. But between him, Julian Sayin, Dante Moore, and Arch, that's going to be a top 5 Heisman frontrunner. And I think he has the best chance of winning it. But that doesn't translate to NFL success. Fortunately for him, he's got a nice NIL package that he can rely on, but his future success is going to be damn near eliminated because of this one decision. This was stupid. And you can't tell me that you're a dog, that you're an alpha male, when you're a 24-year-old who's been in college for 6 years and you want to come back, who's been in college for 5 years and you want to come back for a 6th. That's true domination, sure. Right. When you got guys like Julian Sayin and Arch who've been playing the right amount of time and still being elite. I hope to God that what we saw from him wasn't just a benefit of having Lane and Charlie calling, scheming, and designing plays to highlight his talents and ability. Because that can be the case too. And if you see this kid slip at any moment, if his play does not match up to how it was last year, he can kiss these NFL dreams goodbye. It can be over with for him in a moment's notice. And that's not good. The whole purpose of playing college athletics is to make it to the next level. Now you have people screaming about kids should have 4 years to develop and play. They do already. You're either good enough to make it onto the field or you don't. If that's the case, send them back to high school too then, because they should get 4 years to play, right? Not 4 years to be on the team, but 4 years to actually play on the field. Make that shit make sense. He had his opportunities. My guy caught COVID. He caught a cold. He had a sinus infection. And he had to sit out. Tough luck, I guess. Congratulations on getting the injunction, on getting your next year, because I want to see him play. He's fun to watch. But I also feel like a lot of that was Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss too. Because they had made the decision to make him the backup. They made the decision to stick with him even when he really wasn't ready. Because they saw something in him. And then they made the decision to design the offense to put him in a position to highlight his skills. And we can't forget that he's not there. Lane's not there. Charlie Weiss Jr. is not there. George McDonald's not there. Kevin Smith is not there. You are missing so many guys on that offensive staff that helped make this kid who he was. And if you try to ignore the fact of the impact from coaching, then you're stupid. And you're just ignorant. But he's not setting himself up for major success, for long-term success, because of this one decision. And I feel bad for him. Because it's hard for me to sit here and looking at all the quarterbacks that's coming out in next year's draft class, he's going to be the smallest. He's going to be the smallest. And he's got to rely on Pete Golding and John David Baker with the great value, better goods version of the offense that he ran to get him right. Sure, that's really going to work out well. I get why Ole Miss fans are excited because you guys achieved a level of success you've never tasted before. But with every rise, there's the opportunity for a fall. And Ole Miss is set up to have a huge fall right now. But no one bigger than Trinidad Chambliss. This kid has a lot going for him. And he made it onto the scene and did it the right way this year. This year. This was the year for him to capitalize on that. The draft was wide open for him to take over. Now they even have mock drafts coming out where the Raiders are not taking Fernando Mendoza at 1. But they're taking Arvell Reese. Considering trading Max Crosby and taking Arvell Reese. So if there's an opportunity for Fernando to get passed over, why couldn't Trinidad end up being the first quarterback taken in the draft? And then he wouldn't even have to fight to make a roster because he's a first-round pick. And we all know in NFL, first-round quarterbacks, first and second-round quarterbacks, get more opportunities to fail than any other player drafted in the league. They have to make you work. Look at Tim Tebow. Because of where Tim Tebow was selected, he got more opportunities than what he really deserved. Tim Tebow was not an NFL quarterback at all. He was great for college football. And unfortunately, because of this decision, Trinidad Chambliss is setting himself up to have the same career path where he is great for college football and buried because of everybody else that's coming out in front of him. After college, you no longer get to choose where you go and how you make money when it comes to playing football. You are forced into decisions. You are forced into limited options. It's not a place where you can pick. And looking at the quarterbacks listed for the 2027 draft, only one of them is under 6'2". Well, two. John Mateer and Julian Sayin. And the rankings I've seen are all showing that Julian Sayin should be ranked number 1. Immediately followed by Dante Moore and then Arch Manning. And we all know Arch Manning is going to benefit from being a Manning. He's not going to get drafted before the end of the first day. There's no way Arch Manning closes day one and his name is not selected. So we know Arch is going first round. Julian Sayin potentially going first round. And Dante Moore is definitely going in the first round. You have 3 quarterbacks that are going in the first round already. And don't forget about Jayden Mayava. And then if Sam Levitt and Brendan Sorsby have the seasons that they're expected to have, they can force themselves into the first round too. We can potentially see 5 to 6 quarterbacks selected in the first round. But no, Trinidad wants to come back for another year. He wants to think about just this 1 year so he could be the big man on campus. All of that to accomplish what? It's highly unlikely that Ole Miss is going to replicate the season that they had last year because teams are going to get better. And in order for teams to rise, teams have to fall down. The teams at the top have to take a step back, especially if they haven't been consistent. Fortunately for Ole Miss, they have been consistent over the last few years. The unfortunate part is their consistency moved west to Baton Rouge. The person that made that program who it is today decided to leave and come to Baton Rouge. So now Ole Miss is a question mark. And they have the setup to be the biggest step back in the conference. Schedule's tough. Yes, they have key players back on offense with Kejuan Lacey and Trinidad Chambliss, but they lost key wide receivers. They lost a projected start on the offensive line. They're replacing 2 defensive leaders, their sack leader, and the leading tackler in the SEC. And as much as they want to downplay those impacts those players had, it's only because they're hurt. They're going through the 5 stages of grief. And they haven't reached the acceptance part yet. They're still in denial. When you look at this from a 10,000-foot view, Trinidad coming back to Ole Miss, while it's profitable today, as far as the money is concerned, there's a lot more risk involved. The long-term, unsubstantiated success can be detrimental because there's a lot more question marks than there are answers. How is he going to get along with his quarterback coach and Joe Judge, who he's going to have to lean on for development? How is he going to get along with the play caller? Is the play caller and John David Baker going to have the same rhythm that Charlie Weiss Jr. and Lane Kiffin had? How is he going to trust the head coach? Because we saw in that Georgia game, Pete Golding mismanaged that halftime, that 2-minute warning. We saw that happen. We saw the defense give up bad drives against Miami in the playoffs. Pete Golding's defenses have been good. They haven't been elite. They don't strike fear in somebody's hearts. And they weren't designed to be that way. His defenses were designed to just keep enough points off the board so the offense can outscore on their side of the board. But now, the offense has question marks. Trinidad coming back was stupid. It was the dumbest decision he could have ever made. And anybody advising him to do so was doing so just because they saw the financial implications that he had for this season. His ultimate goal, if his ultimate goal was to make it to the NFL, this year was the best year for that. Lenore Sellers will get drafted before Trinidad Chambliss just because of his size in next year's draft class. And that is the sad state of affairs of college football and NFL draft scouting. And Trinidad Chambliss is going to be the person that we see in 2027 get highlighted because of it. Look, I just wanted to come on real quick this morning and talk about that. It was laid upon my heart all weekend, and I want to get out the way before we start the pregame festivities for the Tiger baseball team. Go support the boys. Let's see if we can get a Bayou Panda blast out here tonight, well, this afternoon. I wonder if Seth Dardar is starting. It's going to be interesting. Can't wait to see that game. I'll be back on tomorrow evening. Might be at the box tomorrow. But just wanted to come up with that. Come up and talk about that for a second. Thank y'all for joining me this morning. I know it's kind of short notice. For all y'all in the chat on Twitter, thank you for following me on YouTube. Thank you for subscribing. Like, share, subscribe. We got more content on the way. It's not stopping. The train is just starting to roll. Thank y'all again. I'll probably be back on later on just to kick it, talk about the baseball game maybe a little bit. Other than that, see y'all later. Enjoy the parades. Deuces.